Welcome to In the News for December 3rd, 2021. I am Brett Birdie from appsandlaw.com.
This is Jeff Richardson from iPhone JD. Welcome back, Brett. Good to see you after a little absence of a week. Yes.
I'm feeling all festive. You can tell
I know,
I've got the tree behind me. We're in December now. So 2021 is like almost over. It's crazy. We didn't have a podcast last week because we took the time off to be with our friends and family, as we are prone to do, at least here in the United States, with the Thanksgiving holiday. So welcome back, everyone. And there was a little bit of news that has been happening since the Thanksgiving week and even this past week. One of the things I think you mentioned right at the very top here, where NSO Group is back in the news. We talked about this several weeks ago, a couple of months ago, maybe even, Jeff, that, this was coming out. This was, maybe you can explain a little bit, but it was a group that has some software that is very scarily able to infiltrate somebody's iPhone and get information off of it. Although there's many details involved in there about how exactly that it happens. But Apple kind of sounds like they've had enough of this. Now they have filed suit against the NSO Group, and this will be pretty interesting to watch how things happen here.
Yeah, it will. The NSO Group, sometimes when people talk about hackers, they talk about black hat hackers, the bad guys, and then the white hat hackers, who are people that they understand hacking and the world of it, but they just sell their services to try to protect companies and stuff. Right. And NSO Group, in my mind, they try to come across as the good guys, as the white hackers. We only sell our tools to governments. We're not going to sell it to the hacker down the street. And we're going to require the governments to just use them to go against the bad guys, because who wants the bad guys, doing the bad things? But the problem is that, every government has a different definition of who the enemy of the state is, who the bad guy is. And, there's been all of these cases of these governments using the tools against civil rights activists, journalists, and again, I guess, everybody could have their own definition. Maybe for some people, the journalist truly is the bad guy, because how dare you report on the bad things I'm doing? But, from my standpoint, I disagree with NSO Group. And the real problem is that they are paying, they are doing so much. They are so far beyond a lot of the other hackers out there and coming out with exploits and everything like that. And then once they have the exploits, they get spread elsewhere, that, ultimately it makes the iPhone less secure. And so I actually think in the end of the day, it's probably a bad idea what NSO Group is doing. And more importantly, Apple certainly doesn't like someone out there, really touting all of their exploit of flaws and trying to undermine the security of the iPhone and the iPad. So Apple, what I think is sort of funny is this lawsuit that you just mentioned was brought in Apple's backyard in the Northern District of California. And the NSO Group is in Israel. And my first thought was, how are they suing somebody in Israel right here in California? And the answer is that they realize that NSO Group has been, using hundreds of Apple ID accounts, I guess improperly, because that's not, you're supposed to just use your Apple ID account to develop an app or something like that. And they've been using them to come up with ways of hacking into things. But by virtue of the fact that they signed up as an Apple developer, they consented to the jurisdiction of California courts. And so now they're being sued in California. So I'm sure the NSO Group would prefer not to be in the courthouse that's down the street from Apple. But we'll see, what happens in this lawsuit. So it'll be interesting to see, because, another thing is Apple doesn't normally like to be very public about things that are very important to it, like security. But when you file a lawsuit, it's going to be public. There's going to be public discovery. There's going to be witnesses being deposed. So through the course of the lawsuit, which will probably take, a decent amount of time, we both know how long lawsuits can last. I suspect that there will be interesting news that we will learn about security of iPhones and iPads. And hopefully that will be, a good thing. I will mention one more thing about this lawsuit. I have heard analysts speculate, and I don't know any of this myself, that NSO Group is actually sort of running out of money right now, and that this lawsuit might serve to bankrupt the company, and people speculate maybe that's what Apple's goal is in the first place, is just put them out of business. On the other hand, I've also heard people say that the country of Israel supports what NSO Group is doing, so maybe the Israeli government will try to find a way to help them in the lawsuit. Who knows? It'll be very, those of us sitting in the cheap seats will be eating popcorn and watching with anticipation to see what happens.
Yeah. So just to sort of set the stage in case folks hadn't been listening maybe to the earlier podcast, we're talking about the company is NSO Group, just like it sounds. Mm-hmm. And what came out, I think several weeks ago, was this Pegasus spyware. So if you hear NSO Group and Pegasus, the Pegasus is like their product, I guess, that they created and offered. And we don't know all the details, but to your point, Jeff, hopefully we'll know a little bit more about exactly how this little, compromised issue works. In other words, we think right now that the Pegasus software sends an iMessage, which is based on those iCloud accounts that you mentioned. And if somebody clicks on that iMessage or so, then it could compromise their iPhone. In other words, it gets then access to some of the contacts and some of the other information that would not typically be available really anywhere on an iPhone because of the security components on there. So just helping to set the stage a little bit on that. Obviously, as we all imagined, even when this story first broke, Apple cannot be happy about this because of their emphasis on the security component. And like I said earlier, it sounds like that they've just barely had enough. And a couple of other things quickly I'll mention in this too. It sounds like, John Gruber at Daring Fireball pointed out that Apple named one of these compromises. I think it's called forced entry, which is an exploit in there. John thought that was interesting because it was getting named specifically in there. In that software. And then something else, I don't know if you had a chance to look at this, but it looks like that Apple is going to be giving some money back to like cyber surveillance groups or for protect victims. I really thought that was an interesting turn of events on that as well.
Yeah, and in fact, it recognizes the fact that one of the reasons Apple knows what it knows about these hacking attempts is that there's a group called Citizen Lab, which is associated with the University of, I want to say Toronto in Canada. I think it's associated with the university, and they work on security, and they've got smart university people doing that. And they were able to actually get a copy. They actually got a hold of one of the journalists who had been hacked, and so they could actually examine it shortly before the software had deleted itself from the iPhone, and that was critical. I mean, they were able to then figure out, okay, how is this working? What is it doing? They shared that information with Apple, and Apple publicly thanks them. And I know is going to be paid. First of all, they're going to make a payment to Citizen Lab and some other places to encourage their efforts to improve security. And Apple has also said that anything that they recover monetarily in the lawsuit, they're going to donate it all to cyber, security researchers, because Apple's not in this for the money. Obviously, Apple's got all the money. They are in this for the security. And so, and I don't think, I guess you could be cynical and say, oh, they're just trying to make themselves look good by saying they're giving away the money, but I don't think so. I think this is actually very practical. Apple very much wants, university and other level people to be researching hacking attempts to protect, all of us. And Apple likes the fact that those people are well funded, because although Apple researches security itself and has, I'm sure, a huge security team, everyone, you want to have as many different people researching this as possible to get the most protection.
Absolutely. And the other thing that John points out, John Gruber at Daring Fireball, is that Apple actually had a press release about this lawsuit. It just so many things here that are interesting. And I know probably a lot of folks, may not be quite as interested in talking about a lawsuit as maybe you and I are from multiple angles here. But this is quite significant in the sense that, Apple is really doing a few things here to really raise the public awareness of what's going on here. And it's kind of an interesting, shot across the bow kind of a thing, I think, as well. And it's interesting to see how this is going to go through. And I'll have the links to, especially the Verge story that you linked to, Jeff. I think it's very good. It actually has the PDF of the actual complaint that's embedded in here, and it's linked to as well. So that's good. It's like you can go and read the whole public complaint if you really wanted to. Maybe not for everybody, but anyway, it was interesting, again, just what you said, that they are setting jurisdiction on the fact that the NSO Group apparently created hundreds of iCloud accounts in order to send an iMessage, because you have to have an iCloud account in order to send an iMessage, kind of a thing. Those very technicalities are very interesting to me on sort of how this actually is working on this. And it's just interesting. I think you even made a comment here in your post that somebody had tweeted out, well, it's finally a good use for an end user license agreement, right? When they created an iCloud account, they agreed, just like we all do. We just keep tapping agree and okay. But if you really read some of that, you are agreeing to some of those things, including probably, at least in this case, as Apple argues, that you could be brought to sue in the Northern District of California. So good luck on that. There might be some freaking flyer miles being used between California and Israel. Interesting stuff on there. Okay, well, thanks for reporting that, because again, I know it's not the most interesting thing from like a consumer standpoint, but the ramifications and the repercussions from this, I think, could be important. So we'll definitely continue to follow along with that. So let's move on to some more fun things, because Christmas has come early to the Richardson household, it sounds like. You, my friend, have done a great job this past week of putting out several reviews, including one that I thought was fascinating, a brand new television for Jeff Richardson and family. Why don't you tell us a little bit about why you went to that? You detail some of that in your post here, but wow, how fun. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, I tell you what, it really has been like Christmas early. It was actually technically sort of a birthday present. That was the big birthday present to myself and for my family. But it's been great fun. 4K is nothing new. Folks have been using 4K televisions for a while now, right? But they can be expensive, especially the larger ones. And I had been happy with my old TV, so I had pushed off the upgrade for a long time. But finally, I mean, in my heart, I sort of thought this might have been the year I was going to make the jump, and finally started to research it. But as I pointed out in my review, the real thing that made me make the jump was not dissatisfaction with my prior television, which was a plasma HD TV, but it was nice. The Apple devices. It's using the iPhone and the iPad. The fact that the newest iPhones and iPads have such amazing screens with all of the nits and all of the HDRs and all of the everything else, that it made me appreciate that, gosh, a really, really nice screen makes a difference. It does. And then also the fact that I've been taking home video for many years now in 4K.
You mentioned that, right?
But I didn't really have a way to appreciate it in 4K. And so now I do with this new television. So the one that I ended up picking up, I mean, as I point out in the review, the big decision is between the televisions that use LCD or LED technology, which are less expensive and a little bit brighter. So it's good if you're in a room that has like windows and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Or there's the OLED televisions, which are much more expensive, and they work better if you have a dark room. But the HDR is just phenomenal. I mean, and specifically, I mean, the one that I got was the LG brand. Then I looked at some others too, like Sony's got a nice one. My brother has a Sony one. It's beautiful. But these TVs are something else. And again, they are not cheap. One of the things that I had a 65-inch television, which I always thought was plenty big. That was my Plaza one. And I was going to get the 65-inch version of the 4K because it's the same size. And it was, it was less. I want to say it was maybe $1,800 or something like that, which is still a lot of money. And my wife turned to me, it's like, if we get a television, we're not going to get another one for a very long time. Maybe we'll make the next jump up in size, just honey. To, appreciate it. And, I thank her back because I know what she was really doing, was telling me what I wanted to hear. And so she wants me, which is great. But so we ended up getting the next bigger size. But I mean, this thing is almost $3,000. It is very expensive. I mean, this is like a high-end Macintosh or something like that. But I will tell you that if you can find the budget for it, oh my goodness, this thing is amazing. It is so beautiful. The video that I've been watching is just jaw-dropping. And I talk about this in the review. I guess at some point the honeymoon period will end, but we've had this thing for a couple of weeks now. And like every time I turn it on, I find myself like turning to whoever I'm watching is like, can you believe how good this looks? And I think it's funny that even people like my wife, who's not as big into technology as I am, that even she will turn to me and say, wow, this looks really, really good. I'm like, yeah, this is really good. So it's been a fun upgrade. And I talk about a lot more aspects of it.
You do. You do a great job in here. And, and one thing quickly I'm going to focus on, because I saw that you mentioned this. And as I was reading through your review, Jeff, my mind started thinking, is this a smart TV or are you just going to use the Apple TV? And, I don't have a smart TV. I purposely went with, I think I've got a 60-inch. It's an LCD. It's not OLED, but I purposely went with a dumb TV. And what I mean by that, most folks I think would know, but it doesn't have like a built-in Wi-Fi. Like the TV can't connect to the Wi-Fi so that it has a built-in ability to connect to Netflix or Amazon Prime or so, because I have all of those services, but I use all of those services almost specifically and only through the Apple TV. So I plugged the Apple TV in, but by kind of toward the bottom of the review, you do go into, at least on the LG interface, it's called the Web OS, right? Right. But you didn't find it to be all that helpful.
No, I mean, I will tell you that all of the built-in interfaces for these TVs, I think they all are not great.
They're lacking.
The Apple TV is better. And as I've been researching this for the past, 6 months now, everyone that I've talked to that like really is in the know and stuff and has been, looking into this for a while, they've all told me the same thing, that you really don't want to use the TV's built-in interface, even though some people say that WebOS on the LGs is one of the better ones, that, you just have a better experience with something like an Apple TV. Yeah. I mean, a perfect example being that the LG one, wants to show you ads all the time, and you can turn some of that stuff off, but you can't completely get rid of it. And even just, you're showing on the screen right now for folks watching the video that, most of the LG screen is taken over by sort of, I don't mean ads in the sense of, go buy a Starbucks coffee, but promoting different parts of the app as opposed to just using it. What you really want to do is have access to the apps that allow you to like watch Netflix or watch HBO, and they're smaller and they're near the bottom. And so they're not emphasized. Whereas on the Apple TV, of course, those are front and foremost. And so everyone that I talked to said that what you really want to do is just get beyond, the interface, and you don't need the smart TV. And then some people are even concerned about some of the more, I don't know if nefarious is the right word, or just creepy aspects, because these smart televisions, and the LG is an example of it, they want to watch what you're watching and report that and sell that information. I didn't even talk about this in the review, but there are a million different deep into the settings. You can try to turn off most of that stuff. Not 100% all of it, to say, don't spy on me, don't talk about what I'm, don't pay attention to what I'm watching, all that other stuff. I'm sure some of it's still there. I know there are some people that go to the extreme and say, I don't even connect the TV to the internet, and you just said your own TV can't do that in the first place. And I guess I could remove that to try to stop it from, but yeah, I mean, the interface is there. If you need to use it, it's fine. And as I talk about in the review, we actually did use it for the first couple of days because I didn't have everything else hooked up yet, and I didn't have the right cables and stuff. And so you certainly can use it. I'm glad that it's there. I mean, I will tell you that the old television ended up going up to a different room in our house. And for a while, we were actually using the interface on that older television, although eventually I found an old Apple TV and hooked it up there too, because it was easy to use. So, it's nice. I think the Apple TV is the way to go. I had reviewed the newest Apple TV, which supports 4K. I had reviewed it. You have it right there back in June. Here it is. If you want to know a little bit about the mind of Jeff Richardson, the fact that I upgraded back in June tells you that I've been thinking in the back of my head that a 4K television might be coming at some point as far back as June. So I bought the Apple TV 4K, even though I didn't have a 4K TV. And one of the advantages of this one, of course, is it's also got the new remote, which is so much nicer. And it's also so much faster than my older Apple TV. So it's much, there's many reasons to use an Apple TV 4K, even if you don't have a 4K TV. But it's even better if you do have a 4K TV, because then you can watch everything in all of its glory.
So your old TV was not 4K, right?
It was just HD. Just
okay, so
HD.
You had bought the new Apple TV 4K, but you didn't have a 4K TV. See,
I'll tell you, totally with you. So, for example, if I was watching 4K content, like for example, some things that I recorded with my iPhone, like if I recorded something in 4K, if I was trying to watch it using an older Apple TV, things weren't looking right. But with the new Apple TV 4K, it itself could understand the 4K video, and then it could downgrade it to something that looked fine on my regular HD
on the TV.
So, and that was one of the big things that it was one of, many options, but that was one of the things I liked about it, is with that Apple TV 4K, I could continue to use my old TV, and I could watch the 4K content that I had recorded myself. And the video quality was acceptable. But of course, now the video quality is, oh my goodness, beautiful and stuff.
Yeah, I think our dumb TV, it just sounds so condescending to say it. Our dumb TV is 4K, but I don't yet have the Apple TV 4K. I think for the Bernie household, that might be a Christmas gift to bless us with. And now you've even.
Plus, you'll get the new remote too, which is much nicer.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's a good upgrade.
The last thing quickly I just want to say, I loved at the bottom of this. In fact, you were talking about the price of the TV, but you talked about the delivery of this. You got it from Amazon, you say, and they actually brought it in the house for you. It sounds like.
I was wondering that. I'm like, how do you buy something that's the size of a car from Amazon?
How are you going to do that?
These boxes for these big TVs are huge. But I mean, many people probably are familiar with these type of alternative buying experiences from Amazon. I was not. And when you sign up for the TV, it's like a whole different option option for delivery. It's not like, do you want it on Prime Tuesday or whatever it is? It was a separate delivery thing, and it was very professionally done.
Do you need a forklift in addition to the TV?
You could select a delivery window, and they kept within that window. Wow. You could see where the truck was that morning, and it was really nice. You could even, in fact, there was some construction going on my street, and I got a little alert that morning saying that I could actually communicate with the driver. And so I sent him a note saying, such and such a street may be blocked. You have to go the other way. And they were like, thank you. So it was a very nice delivery process. And then as an Amazon Prime customer, they actually, the two people picked up the TV and brought it all the way into the room of my house, which was nice because that way my son and I could just sort of take the box off.
You had to get it out of the box.
Yeah, which is actually very easy to LG's benefit.
Okay, good.
Even though the box is huge for this TV to protect it during shipping, they actually make the box in a way that it opens up very easily, and it was much easier to deal with than I expected it. I thought we'd have to be lifting something out of this huge box. No, not at all. So it was a pleasant buying experience. So I definitely recommend,
Excellent. Okay. I know I'm having so much fun talking about this, and I don't want to leave it yet because another thing that you posted this past, couple of weeks or just a couple of days ago was something else that you found with the TV is making sure that you had the right HDMI cable. Something I guess I wouldn't even think about. I don't even know if those cables come with the TV anymore. I remember, there was a whole thing where they don't, but apparently I didn't read all the way through, but you can't just use any HDMI cable necessarily for this, right?
And
so you had to get something new.
Is I knew the things that I needed the cable to have, and I thought I bought the right one, and I bought monoprice, which are less expensive but are supposedly have very good quality, and it did not work completely with the Apple TV 4K.
Really,
I wasn't able to watch some of the content, and it wasn't until I got this Belkin cable, which was a little bit, another $30 or something, and then suddenly it worked. So if
really.
You need to have the right cable for this stuff. At least with my setup. Maybe if I had used a Sony TV instead of an LG TV, the other cables would have worked. I have no idea. But the idea that a cable that tells you on the package it has all the bells and whistles you need, and yet it still didn't work, versus this Belkin one, which some people on the internet said, gosh, this is the one to get for the Apple TV 4K. And sure enough, it's worked great for me. So
interesting. I think, I'm happy for you, but this story just makes me angry a little bit because I'm starting to see this confusion. It's not like this is brand new. There's been, as any kind of time technology kind of progresses along, but I see this with like the USB-A or USB-A, which is the typical USB. There's 2.0 and 3.0, and there's been several complaints over the last month or so. People talking about USB-C cables, right? That it should be the same one, but some are faster, some are not, some will work better. And now we're talking about HDMI. For the common man that just wants to get a brand new TV and hook up their Apple TV to it, and it doesn't work, I can only imagine, like, who do you call? Like, what's the tech support? And how is anybody on tech support going to ever say, have you tried, paying $40 for a new HDMI cable? And
seriously,
most people are going to be like, no, why? How would a cable make a difference? But it does. Anyway, so I'm glad that you posted that. And that's kind of what made me be thinking about, the different, it's more of a frustration more than anything else. And we're not going to be done with it, but, it's just, I guess, buyer beware more than anything else, right? It's just making sure that people are comfortable with that.
Yep.
So anyway, okay, so we'll move on to a new topic, but we're going to stay with the Richardson household. I just love this that you had a posted here how you have automated your Christmas tree lights.
Absolutely.
By using a smart plug. Now, this is the one that you mentioned, right? Lutron, I believe.
Yeah, and I've been doing this for years too for this plug. I love the Lutron. We may even talked. I think we've talked about it in the past. Lutron are some of my favorite HomeKit devices because they can dim lights in your room. I like controlling that from the switch as opposed to from the bulb. People get the Hue bulbs, the bulb can do all sorts of fancy things. But I like having the switch that controls it. But these things that they just it's a small little box that plugs into your wall outlet, and it's got two outlets on one side that are both controlled simultaneously. So if you had two lamps in a room, you could turn on both lamps at the same time, turn them off. They're not independently controlled. But I use it. I have one that I've used every year for the couple of years now for the Christmas tree, and it's a perfect use for this because by definition, first of all, you don't want the Christmas tree on all the time. Obviously, you want to turn it off when you're leaving the house for safety reasons and stuff.
Right.
And then also it's something that just by the very nature of where a Christmas tree is located, it's going to be plugged in someplace that it's hard to get to that plug because the tree is in front of it. And at some point the presents are in front of it and stuff like that. So it is an awkward one to get to. So it's so much nicer to have a remote control to turn the tree on and off. And then when you have something that works with HomeKit, it's even better because then not only can you, press the actual remote button if you've got that with the Lutron, but you can use your iPhone to turn it on and off. You can, if you leave the house, you can actually look at your iPhone and see, did I leave on the tree by accident? And if so, turn it off. And then of course you can use Siri and say, to tell Siri to turn the tree on and off, which is what we do in our house. It's sort of fun. And there's a million ways to talk to Siri. We happen to have a HomePod Mini in the same room where our Christmas tree is. It hears everything that we say. So, it's, the prototypical use of a HomeKit device is probably turning your lights on and off. But I think that turning a Christmas tree on and off, that is a perfect use of HomeKit.
'Tis the season. The ratings on this are through the roof. Another story that you linked to, which is great. And I hadn't really followed this gentleman, I forget who does the videos.
It's Dan. He does the videos for MacRumors. It's linked up there.
He's really good. And in fact, I think he's in my backyard here. Anyway, this is an excellent video. I started watching the whole thing because you linked to it. It's just sort of like, here are some other ideas for controlling your home, with HomeKit, accessories, that kind of a thing. And, you're further ahead on this journey than I am. I haven't really automated a whole lot of the house, but this video was so good. It was kind of helping me better understand where there are some good uses for it. He even talks about remote controlling your ceiling fan. He talks about the Sonos sound bar. He also talks about the HomePod Mini on there, but he also mentions Lutron and the light switches there and how he uses that. And anyway, this is a great video. I'll make sure that you link to it and we'll have it in the show notes as well.
Dan Berger is his name, and he does some great stuff for MacRumors. Plus, he's like one of their video guys, so all of his videos they're
very nice. Yes, I'm very jealous.
High quality.
Okay, so now we'll finally move out of the Richardson household and maybe perhaps into the Bernie car, the Bernie vehicle, because you had a neat story here where I didn't even know this.
Let me set this one up, Brett. Let me set it up first.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I was reading the internet this week and I saw that we now have our first CarPlay app that you can use to order food. And I'm thinking to myself, that is really funny. You could be in your car and you could order food, and it happens to come from Dunkin' Donuts, or I guess they're just called Dunkin' nowadays. And Dunkin', so I posted this morning saying, hey, isn't this funny that you could use CarPlay to order a coffee? Are people actually doing that? Tell me, Brett, are people actually doing that?
Well, I don't know of anybody that's actually done something like that.
For those not watching the video, Brett is holding up his Dunkin' coffee as we speak.
I saw this because you and I have talked many times about CarPlay, and I am loving it. And in fact, it makes me think quickly just about the TV interface that we were just talking about. I don't like using each TV manufacturer has a different interface. Each car has a different interface in whatever screen that they have. I don't even do that. I just plug in my iPhone and I use CarPlay, and I love CarPlay. In fact, I've got a couple of tips coming up about customizing CarPlay. But when I saw this, first of all, it's a great article overall, and I'm glad you linked to it, because it actually lists a bunch of the apps that are available, some of the best apps that are available on CarPlay. And I loved looking through here to see, hey, do I need to get something more? Is there something neat? There's a lot of great music apps, great audiobook apps, great podcast apps. Those are the things that I'm typically thinking about, but also navigation, news and sports, that kind of a thing. This was a great list. But of course, when I saw, wait a minute, the Dunkin' app is available on CarPlay. Are you kidding me? I love the Dunkin' app on the phone. I'm not the hugest fan of Dunkin', but it's good when you need a quick cup of coffee, go through the drive-through. So I told my wife, because I am dedicated to supporting this podcast, that I need to run out in the car and run to Dunkin' and try this out. And the kids, were ecstatic. So we all had a nice little Dunkin' run this morning. But I will tell you, I thought, in the app, it looks fantastic on CarPlay. It's all there. I can't generate or at least yet, I can't generate like a brand new order from scratch.
That's right. That's what they said. Yeah, it's either doing this the same recent order or a favorite order, right?
Yes, which I liked, but of course this time I had the kids with me, so we wanted to add something. But literally, it would found, because I'm logged in with my Perks name or whatever it is, the account. It found like my most recent orders. It found my favorite store, the one closest to us. And so if I wanted to just redo an order that I'd put in a couple of weeks ago or so, I would simply tap, 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 and it would be done. And it would be waiting for me. It said, you want to go pick it up in drive-through or pick it up, from the window, walking in. It was just fascinating. I love the fact that it was all there. Maybe a little too happy about that, but I had to go and try that today for you, our listeners. Yeah. And it worked great. I enjoyed it. I'm so glad that they have something like that. Starbucks can't be long around the corner, right? I mean, it's a great app, because otherwise I would pick up my phone and I would have to like look at my phone and go through the app and everything. If I could use Siri to actually say, order that most recent order, so it has them all listed there, man, that's getting closer to a lot more funness.
Yeah, I see the value of this for sure. There's a Starbucks across the street from my office, as there's a Starbucks across the street from, of course, every building in America, of course, certainly in downtowns. And there have been times where, you're going into work, you're like, gosh, this is a morning that I really think I need a coffee. And we also have a coffee place in the downstairs of our building, but sometimes I want to go to Starbucks. And the Starbucks app is great because you can order ahead using the app. And then I love the fact that it's already waiting there. You walk in the store, you pick it up, and you walk out, and you don't have to interact with anybody or do anything. It's great. But I don't feel comfortable, and I don't think it's even legal to be using the Starbucks app as I'm driving. So there have been times where I've been driving to work and I might pull over to the side, use the app for a second and do it. But if there was a CarPlay interface that I felt comfortable using at a red light, especially if it was simple as pressing a button and saying, give me the same thing I got last time, that would be nice. And then by the time I get to the office, it's ready to go. So I realized that, this is a first of all problem, to say the least, but it certainly does sound like a nice thing to have.
It was fun.
So,
I'm glad that I could
to Dunkin' Donuts.
Yes,
I liked it.
And I'm glad that I could spend my time this morning and enjoy the holiday blend, I believe is what this is. Okay, anyway.
Your service for all of us is much appreciated, Brett. Thank you for taking the sacrifice.
Along those lines, I'm going to do my in the know, because I thought, okay, well, since I'm talking about CarPlay, and I knew that I was going to be doing this when I saw them. First of all, CarPlay is not available on everywhere. So I wanted to at least say there's a great website. I'll put the link in the show notes, that it's usually cars from 2016 and up, right? So if you've got a car that's older than from 2016, you're probably not going to have CarPlay. There's a great website that you can go and look at all of the different models from the different manufacturers and see if you're listed on there. It's not guaranteed it's going to be in there, because I think it was just barely at the rollout of 2016. So it's probably going to be more like 2017 or 2018. So just FYI on this. But there's a couple of tips that I hadn't really looked into that I wanted to let everybody know. And I'll put this I found them kind of illustrated here in this PC Mag article. First and foremost, you can customize the wallpaper on this. Now, this is typically done inside when you're in the car on the CarPlay itself. I don't know how to change the wallpaper on the phone before you get to the car. I don't think you can.
No.
So if you want to customize the background, you can get in your car, plug in your iPhone, and you go into the settings app in the CarPlay interface, and then you can change the wallpaper. Now, right now, I found a few more than what this image shows, but there was maybe only about 12 or so that you could select from. You can't upload a picture yet. I think that would be a nice addition at some point. But it's just like sort of the background on there. But you just go into settings and you can put in whichever background that you want. And by the way, you can also say if you want it to automatically go from dark mode to light mode, or you can say always stay in the dark mode. So that's another option that you can play with when you're in the CarPlay. And then the other quick tip that I liked on this as well is that if you want to add apps to your CarPlay interface, or you want to rearrange the apps in your CarPlay interface, this is something that you can do on your iPhone before you get in the car. Although I would say it works better if you're in your car and you use your iPhone, like before you pull out of the garage or something, that you can go into your phone, go to settings, go to general and CarPlay, and then you can either say which apps you want to appear in CarPlay, or you've got the 3 lines to the right of all of the list of apps, and then you can drag apps, whichever, you can only have 6 apps at a time on a screen inside CarPlay. So you can drag the apps around. So you can say, I want these 6 apps on the first screen of my CarPlay. And then you can swipe to go to additional screens, and you can decide which apps are going to show up on those individual screens. So the wallpaper, you got to do it from the CarPlay interface. The customizing the arrangement of your apps in CarPlay are going to be done from your iPhone inside settings. You just go into settings, you'll see your car listed there, and you can click on customize, and you can rearrange your app. So that's my CarPlay tip to go along with my my Dunkin' Donuts coffee this morning.
That's a great one.
By the way, this
isn't
sponsored by,
not 6 apps.
Yeah. Okay. 8. Okay. You're right. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry. So it's 8. So I was thinking of how many in a row, 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom. Mm-hmm, yeah. I wish we were sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts, but not yet. Maybe one day.
That would be nice. Maybe one day.
Okay, so that's my tip.
I love that tip, and it's a good one too. Rearranging apps is key because in my mind, if it doesn't live on the first screen of the CarPlay, it might as well not exist because everything that I do is on that first screen there. Agreed. Yeah, so I definitely put my top ones there. That's a good tip you may not know about, and it's a little hidden in settings to find it. My tip is, since I've been spending the last few weeks watching my TV more than I normally do, I wonder why that is.
We're back to the TV now. That's great.
I have some tips for using Apple TV, and these are hidden tips in that you really would not know about them because you can't see them on the screen. So much of the Apple TV interface you're looking at on the screen, and you're tapping and clicking things on the screen. But 2 important hidden menus to know about that a lot of people don't. First one is the control center. We have a control center on the iPhone you can get from swiping and on the iPad, but there's the control center on the Apple TV. And to get to it, you press and hold the TV button, which is the one at the top right that's got like a little picture of a TV. Don't press it, but hold it down for a second or 2, and it will bring up, there you go. You can see it in the top right corner.
Yeah.
It will bring up the control center. Why would you want to be in the control center? You can do all sorts of things there. You can switch to a different user, which changes the preferences, like the video and music collections that you get from those apps. You can put the Apple TV to sleep. Now, with the very newest Apple TV remote, it has a power button at the top to put it to sleep. But for the older Apple TV, the original Apple TV remote, it doesn't have a power switch on it, but you can turn the Apple TV off in Control Center. And for many televisions, when the Apple TV itself goes off, it also turns off the TV and the receiver if you have that set up correctly. So that's nice. You can also, in the Control Center, see what is currently playing a music app. You can control HomeKit, which is nice. I have HomeKit cameras at my house, which I've written about before. Using the Control Center, I'm sitting there at TV, and if I think I hear something outside or in the backyard, I can very quickly look and just see my camera, what's going on in the backyard, what's going on outside. So that's really nice. But one of the things that I use the most in Control Center is accessing AirPlay controls. And what I do this for is, sometimes you want the music to be loud and, using your Dolby Atmos sound and everything else. But, sometimes you want to be perfectly quiet and not bother the other people in your house. And so using AirPlay on an Apple TV to connect to your AirPods so that you can just sit there and nobody else can hear it but you, that's really nice. And that's the way that you access it from there. And there are some other things that you can get to from Control Center too, like, searching and game controllers if you've got that. So that's one little hidden thing, but it all starts by holding down that home button. And then the other one I want to recommend is the app options. When you talked about moving around apps in CarPlay, you can move around apps on an Apple TV by when you hover over an app, if you press and hold right in the center of the click pad or the touch surface for the first generation remote, then the apps start to jiggle, much like that apps jiggle on the iPhone.
On the phone, right.
While the apps are jiggling. And while they're jiggling, of course, you can drag them around and reorganize them if you want. But while an app is jiggling and being selected, if you then press the play pause button, which is certainly not intuitive, although Apple reminds you of this because it actually tells you at the bottom of the Apple TV screen that you can do it. If you press the play pause button, then you get some app specific options like deleting the app, creating a new folder for the app, moving the app to a different folder. So this is these things. It's not something you're going to use very often, and so you're probably going to forget where it is.
Right.
But that's another little tip. So that one is far less frequently used by me, but it's a good one to know about. But certainly accessing the Control Center on the Apple TV, that's like a power move. Once you get used to doing that, I'll give you one other example, one other advantage of the Control Center. When you bring up the Control Center at the very top, it tells you the time and date. So when you're sitting there streaming, you're binging your movies and you completely lose track of time, you can always very quickly see, oh my goodness, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I've been watching Squid Game for hours, whatever it is. So
that's good. That's extremely useful. I think I've gotten to the control center by accident several times, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? Or maybe my wife has or so. But yeah, that is a good smooth move to have that under. If that's all the thing, hold down that TV button and to get to control center, because there are some really good stuff in there. Just like when I talk to people about using the iPhone, having access to the control center is a must know to do.
Absolutely.
Like it's a good move. That's excellent. Wow. Okay. What a tip-packed show today. This is great. We got automating Christmas trees. We got ordering coffee from your car. This is fantastic. Jeff, it's so good to talk with you again. And we will be back next week. So I'll talk with you next week then.
Bye-bye, Brett. Bye-bye, everybody.